right, I'm going to walk through some of these practice problems that we were working on in class this past week. So these are some of the harder genetics crosses. So first, we're going to try these. These first ones are dihybrid crosses. So remember, what that means is we're looking at two traits at the same time. So rather than just tall versus dwarf or short in the plants and purple versus white, we're looking at what are the chances of tall and purple or short and white. So what are the chances of two traits appearing at the same time? So our first problem, we're crossing a homozygous dominant parent, and they actually gave you the genotype, which they would not have to do. If they say homozygous dominant, they would expect you to know that means all capital letters. And they're being crossed with a homozygous recessive. So a reminder, there's two ways you can solve these. You can make a Punnett square, or you can use the product rule. For the Punnett square, your Punnett square, remember, only needs to represent, it needs to be big enough to represent the possible gametes or sperm and egg that each of these parents can make. So remember, we're talking about meiosis. So each parent is going to give a copy of T and one copy of P to the offspring. Well, our first parent is capital T, capital T, capital P, capital P. So the only thing they can possibly donate to an offspring is big T and big P, right? They can't give little t, they can't give little p. And we only need to write that one time. That's the only possibility they can make. The other parent is recessive for both traits, so they can only give little t or little p. Again, what we're saying is, just a reminder, we're talking about meiosis. So the chromosomes would line up side by side. We have a chromosome that carries big T, and the other one, according to this, also carries big T, and this one carries big P, and this one also carries big P. And what we're saying is, during meiosis, when the chromosomes separate, you're going to get one of them carrying big T and big P, and the other one is also going to carry big T and big P, because that's the only options. And you would have meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, and then these could become sperm or eggs. All right, so that's where we're getting this. This is why it's not, you can't put TT. They shouldn't be giving two copies of T. They're going to give one copy of T. The other parent is going to give one copy of T, and you're going to get an offspring. So if we... So let me erase all of that, and we'll go back and work this out. So we said that our first parent could only give big T and big P. Our second parent can only give little t and little p. So if you wanted to make a Punnett square of this, you have to put a copy of T and a copy of P above each box in your Punnett square. All your offspring, we now put our T's back together and our P's back together. They are all going to be heterozygous, and they would be tall, and they would all have purple flowers, because those are the dominant traits according to this. Purple flowers are dominant, tall is dominant. So they would all be tall, they would all be purple. What I see people do that don't understand this concept, you didn't understand maybe meiosis, and so you're not really understanding this, is I have people that do this. T, P, T, P. If you do that, you're going to get T's in some boxes, you're going to get T's and P's in some boxes. That doesn't make sense. Every child has to have two copies of T and two copies of P, and this Punnett square would not do that. So you can't do it that way. All right, now our second one. We're crossing one that's heterozygous for both traits. So that means capital little, and we're crossing them with one that's homozygous recessive, so little, 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 little. You have to be able to do that first. If you can't do that, you're not going to be able to solve these problems. So they want you to use a Punnett square, but I'll show you the product rule as well. So you have to look at all the possibilities. Every combination, they're going to give one copy of T and one copy of P, but it's random which one it is, right? So they could give big T with big P. They could give big T with little p. They could give little t with big P, or little t with little p. Those are the four options. This parent, easy, right? They can only give little t and little p. That's it. So, Punnett square. We have to put 2 letters over each box now, not just one, because we're looking at 2 traits. Little t with big P, little t with little p. And the other parent can only give little t and little p. Now we put our letters back together and we write down what color they're going to be. So this one would be tall and purple. This one would be tall and white. This one would be dwarf and purple. And this one would be dwarf and white. In other words, we would get 1/4 chance of each of these possibilities. Now, product rule. So there was another way you could solve these, right? We could separate back out our t's and just do a cross of the t's. So if we just cross our t's, one parent was big little, the other one was little little, we would get a 1/2 chance of tall and a 1/2 chance of short or dwarf. And now let's do our p's. So they were big P with little p. And same thing, we're going to get a 1/2 chance of purple. Oh, sorry, these are both small p's. Here, little p. So 1/2 chance of purple and a 1/2 chance of white. So, just like before, what are the chances of tall and purple? We multiply our individual probabilities. We have a 1/2 chance of tall. We have a 1/2 chance of purple. And guess what? 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. So if you do this with the product rule I showed you the other day is you separate out your individual traits, get the fraction, the chance of each outcome, and then multiply the chances together to get the chance of both traits at the same time. So we get the chance of tall, the chance of purple, multiply those together, and that gives you the chance of tall and purple. All right, we're going to move on. We go to our next one. So now they want you to cross 2 heterozygous plants. Now for this one, yes, you would need 16 boxes. Why? Because if each of the parents are big T, big P, little p, that means each of the parents can make big T with big P, big T with little t with big P, and little t with little p. All of these are the possible genotypes for the sperm or egg. So you have to write all of those possibilities. So this parent can make this, 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 and this. This parent can make this, 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 and this. And now you would have to fill in every box. So you put your T's back together and your P's back together. Big T, big T, big P, little p, big T, little t, big P, big P, big T, little t, big P, little p, etc. Now here's the thing. That's really time consuming. I'm not even going to fill it out. You can go to the notes and see what one of these looks like. You can also memorize whenever you cross 2 heterozygous ones. You actually always get the same result. You're going to get, it's called a 9:3 to 3:1 ratio. You're going to get 9/16 showing both dominant traits. You're going to get 3/16 showing dominant for the first one and recessive for the second one. You're going to get 3/16 recessive for the first trait, dominant for the second one, and 1/16 recessive for both. That's actually going to be this box right here. So you could memorize that, to be honest, if it was this specific cross. The other thing you could do is use the product rule, and this is where the product rule would really come in handy. Because if you're crossing this, and you got to do 16 boxes, you could shorten that up a lot. So if we just cross our T's, now we're just doing our regular Punnett Square, we're going to get a 3/4 chance of tall and a 1/4 chance of short, right? 3/4 tall, 1/4 short. If we do our P's, we're going to get the same thing. Big P, little p, big P, little p. I'm not going to fill it out because we're going to run out of time. We're going to get 3/4 purple, 1/4 white. So, what are the chances of tall and purple? Well, 3/4 chance of tall times a 3/4 chance of purple, and we get, ta-da, 9/16, the same answer. So the product rule can be very helpful for this. All right, we're going to move on. Incomplete dominance. So this is just where neither trait covers up the other one. So you see something in the middle. So it's technically, it's still one trait, it's one set of genes. So in this case, in radishes, there's incomplete dominance. It says that if you cross pure breeding red with pure breeding white, all the offspring come out purple. Now another way you could write this, sometimes you'll see it written this way, is they'll use like CR, CR for red. They'll use CW, CW for white, because neither one's really dominant, so using a capital letter is kind of misleading. And then CR, CW for purple. Honestly, it doesn't really matter, as long as you remember that in this cross, the middle is going to be a different color. So they want you to cross a purple with a white. So we just said that purple was, we'll use the CR-CW, and white is CW-CW. So I technically only have to write that one time, right? CW-CW, I can just write it once. And I'm going to get CR-CW. What color is that? Oh, that's going to be purple, that in between. And CW-CW, that one's going to be white. So we're going to have a 50% chance of purple, or 1/2, and a 50% chance of white. And now here they want us to cross two purples, so that would be CR-CW, because that's the heterozygous is the one that's purple. So we get CR-CR, CR-CW, CR-CW, CW-CW. So CR-CR, 1/4, those are going to be red. Again, this is because it's incomplete dominance. 1/2 are going to come out CR-CW, which would be purple. And the last 1/4, CW-CW, those are going to be white. Now remember, this is only because it's incomplete dominance. If this was a regular dominant recessive trait and you did this cross, you'd get 3/4 red, 1/4 white, because this and this would both be the same color. So this is only because they're telling you the trait shows incomplete dominance, meaning a middle. When you cross the two like extremes, you get a color in the middle. All right, last one, multiple alleles. So this is where there's more than just two choices, and they explain that here with blood types is a good example. IA and IB are codominant, meaning if you have that combination of IA, IB, you actually have a protein called A and a protein called B, both of them on your blood cells. But O is recessive. So if you're little I, the third allele is little I, and if you're homozygous for that, you're O. So a man is type AB, so he would be IA, IB. Now it says he marries a woman that's type B. Well, we just said B could be this, or it could be this, but they tell you that her mom was type O, which means her mom had to have given her, remember the only code for O is little I, so the woman must be this. So they want to know what kind of kids they can have, their genotypes and phenotypes. In other words, what they'll look like, what their blood type will be, and what their genes will be. So this is our cross. So you get IA, IB, IB, IB. It's a little messy, sorry. IA, little I, IB, little I. So what we get is 1/4 blood type AB. We get 1/2 blood type B, because both of these would actually show B, and 1/4 blood type O. All right, a father is AB, so this is going to be IA, IB. The mom is type A. Even if she's IA, little I, the child they cannot have would be an O, because the father is either going to give A or B, so there would be no way their child could be blood type O. It could be A if they both gave A. It could be B if he gave B and she gave this, but they could not have a type O child. All right, and then our last one here, this, if the child is O, they would have to be this, IA, little I, and IB, little I. If you do this cross, you could get a child with O. You could also get, if you cross it, and my time's gonna cut off, so I'm gonna have to be really fast here. I'm just gonna write their blood types in here. I'm not gonna write their genotypes. So this child would be blood type AB. This child would be B. This child would be A. This one would be O. So you could actually get all 4 blood types from these 2 parents. All right. We'll talk about these other problems in class later, but hopefully that gives you the answers to those first 8.